fact is, we don't always want to target that younger demographic. A lot of brands aren't trying to sell to 10 to 19 because they don't have much money.
They're the ones that are making their Christmas wish list. They're the ones that are impacting what their parents buy for them.
I believe you can build a deeper connection on Instagram because TikTok is a pure frenzy of content.
I do disagree with that though. Because of the nature of the TikTok platform, it means that brands can kind of be like, oh, we don't have to stick to our brand guidelines. And the brands that do the best, like your Duolingos, your Ryanairs, they have become like ironically iconic off of the back of TikTok, which is something that they would never have had an opportunity to do on Instagram.
TikTok versus Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
What is more valuable for brands? I want to take Instagram.
As we're taking teams?
Yeah, we're taking sides. It's a big debate. And I think there's always lots of chatter on, social between teams. What is more valuable? Where should brands be putting their marketing budget? How should they be allocating their resource? You go first.
So I'm TikTok.
You're TikTok.
I feel like I need to get some stats. For anyone that might be like a client listening, if you get into like a meeting with me next week and I'm like, yeah, you should be on Instagram. I'm going to do my job as TikTok's rep here, but...
Was repping each side.
Absolute disclaimer that there's a time and a place for both, okay? Right. So if I'm TikTok, reasons why I think I'm more valuable are going to be because I cater to a younger demographic. And as we know, social platforms always level up. In theory, I'm not actually a social platform. I'm an entertainment platform. And people spend significantly more time on a daily basis on TikTok than they do on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And the reach is better.
So let's tackle the first one, Instagram. Were you saying younger demographic?
Yeah, I've got the demographic stats here. Now, we will fact check this afterwards and put fresh stats if this is incorrect. But so one thing that's coming up is, so a lot of brands have an issue with TikTok because there's no age guarding that you can do on content. However, they're now bringing that on board. So that solidifies that and makes another argument against them. But so this one here says that 25% of TikTok users are between 10 and 19 years old. And then that means that 75% of them are above the age of 19. And that's quite evenly split. So 22% up to 29, 22% again up to 39, and 20% up sort of 40 plus. So that's actually not as young a demographic as people think.
Yeah.
But there's sort of a complete lack of that younger audience there that Instagram have. And also Gen Zs find Instagram really cringy. I think we're all really embarrassing.
I've spoke to some though that do like
my cousins in Northern Ireland.
Yes. They're quite young. But I guess from Instagram side and being there's many different brands out there, the fact is we don't always want to target that younger demographic with a particular style of content.
It's not that it's only the younger demographic, it has a broader demographic. Mm-hmm. So Instagram completely misses out an entire part of that demographic.
Yeah, I think obviously there's considerations about what type of brand you are, where that audience really is held. Obviously they both have over 1 billion monthly active users as well, so there's an incredible amount of people across both. But depending on brand and building that sort of connection with your audience, not a lot of brands aren't trying to sell to 10 to 19 because they don't have much money. They're begging their parents.
Yes, but also the 10 to 19 year olds are the ones that are requesting their parents to do it. So if you can get in there with them, they're the ones that are making their Christmas wish list. They're the ones that are impacting what their parents buy for them. And to your point, and again, this is TikTok speaking, not me necessarily, but to your point that you might, Instagram may have a larger percent of, say, that 30 to 45-year-old audience. I would suggest that TikTok, for that audience that are active on that platform, has more of their attention than Instagram, because they will most likely be active on both, but they will spend more time and hold more weight on the content that they see on TikTok.
Interesting. I disagree on the weight of content.
You're supposed to be Instagram.
I am.
You're not doing the
I am.
debate thing very well.
I am.
Oh, right.
So I believe that that holds more weight. I believe you can build a deeper connection on Instagram, because TikTok is a pure frenzy of content. You are just scrolling. You're viewing something very quick. You know, average video length on there, again, fact check, but probably is a lot quicker. It's probably, you know, between 7 and 15 seconds. Obviously, you get the same on Instagram Reels, but I believe there's a lot more of a deeper connection on Instagram. The only thing about TikTok for me is that it is that channel where you can grow the fastest. It has the best organic, you know, growth potential. You see accounts grow from zero, like you can get to a few thousand followers quite quickly. Whereas Instagram, that is quite a challenging thing to do unless you're putting lots of paid spend, doing competitions. It's very like good organic growth channel, but I believe it's, you know, you might have a higher volume of followers on TikTok, or the potential to do so, but the depth of relationship, you've got stories.
I do disagree with that though, because I think as a brand, because you don't have to be squeaky clean, Instagram was always first a photography platform. We know that they went really video first there for a while, but they are trying to put more of an emphasis on stills, because ultimately that's what consumers are really putting out there the most. And they kind of got into a bit too much of a copycat tactic with TikTok there for a while. But because of the nature of the TikTok platform, it means that brands can kind of be like, oh, we don't have to stick to our brand guidelines. And the brands that do the best, like your Duolingos, your Ryanairs, they have become like ironically iconic off of the back of TikTok, which is something that they would never have had an opportunity to do on Instagram.
Yeah.
So to me, and this is back to me speaking, not TikTok speaking, but I think if you're a brand and you're willing to let your brand guidelines go and really allow your agency, your team to have real fun with it, and also poke fun at yourselves, like look at the things that you do really well as a brand and look at the things that might sort of separate you from your industry. I think you have a really good opportunity there on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's not to say that there's a lesser opportunity on Instagram. They are, again, this is me speaking now, they are two extortionately different platforms. But from a TikTok perspective, I think you can caveat all of the arguments. If you were to put them like side by side at the minute, to me personally, I think you're starting from scratch as a brand. TikTok would be where you would want to start.
What's your thoughts on driving traffic?
So are we still debating or are we talking?
Yeah, driving traffic between TikTok and Instagram. I sort of believe, I guess,
Instagram believes, or you?
My Instagram beliefs, yeah. Well, no, and my belief is that you can drive more traffic to site. TikTok, on the other hand, because of its viral nature, can generate demand and maybe search volume. You can see uplifts in search volume for a brand name, but driving traffic from us as a social platform, you've got stories, you've got link stickers, you've got everything there.
So what I would say is, whilst there's more opportunity on Instagram, like to natively drive traffic, if we're looking purely from an organic perspective, on TikTok you only have the link in the bio realistically. However, what's more valuable, traffic to site or revenue if you're an e-com business? And if we look at Instagram shopping, it's not fully utilized. People don't use it. Whereas TikTok has got a shopping platform. You can directly attribute revenue off the back of it from both a paid and an organic perspective, and also tying your influencer activity.
Tough to get set up at the moment.
I mean, it depends how complicated the back end of your site is. If you're on Shopify, it's quite easy. But what I would say is, I agree from a perspective of traffic to site. I don't think TikTok does the best job of it, but I think what TikTok is realistically focused on, which is more valuable to marketers in a post-iOS update world, is actually being able to drive attributed value directly from the platform.
Yeah.
So
I guess
websites, I've seen people have TikTok shops. They don't even have a proper website. They use TikTok fulfillment.
But from what I've seen so far on TikTok shop, the products that do well are like the water bottles that are like £2. It's a really cheap sort of drop at the moment. This could obviously change and evolve, and it will, because TikTok are incredibly smart. But a lot of the products that do well are those lower ticket items, which I guess where I see sort of Instagram, you have that ability on, you've got that maybe slightly older demographic who have more disposable income, who are looking for more, still value for their money, but they're not looking for like a bargain, let's say, or those lower ticket items, which can perform very
My
well.
caveat to you is Instagram. TikTok Shop has been around for about 1.5 years. How long has Instagram Shop been around for?
Sure.
Probably about 6 years at this point, and no one uses it.
Not in the same way. It's adapting, obviously, like any social platform, changing all the time.
I think TikTok's argument would be like, we're just a baby.
Yeah.
And I think they have done a better job of making their platform more valuable.
One thing we talk about with clients and internally is, how you combine organic social with paid social and prove the value of that, of what organic social is driving as well. Within that, we talk about middle of funnel audiences. So your social engagement, being able to retarget that audience that engage in your content on social, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, any Pinterest, all of them offer them, and are very powerful audiences when it comes to paid social and retargeting that. They're very warm to your brand. They've seen your product. They probably know what you do, what you sell, what you offer. We've seen obviously some success on TikTok ads at the moment, but I think we'd say still, obviously even with iOS changes and things like that, Facebook and Meta as a whole and as well on Instagram probably drives the most volume of revenue and highest return on ad spend when it comes to paid social.
TikTok Shop.
That's just what
you
you
might fight for everything.
Okay.
I love TikTok Shop.
Yeah,
Everyone in the office rips me for it, but I love it. I think it's such a good tool.
I think it's going to be a huge thing. I was even speaking to someone the other day who is in the sports world. Obviously, they sell tickets to the sporting events. And I was saying how, they're probably going to, TikTok at some point, introduce the ability not only just to shop products, but to buy tickets. There's going to be other things that are going to come out.
It's also got lead gen now that you can do on TikTok.
Yeah.
So obviously it's slightly different to TikTok Shop, but people that are running lead generation campaigns can gather data and stuff through that.
Nice. I guess one thing I also wanted to touch on was cross-posting. What are your...
Are we debating or are we back to opinions?
Back to just, both opinions.
Okay, so I'm not TikTok anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you an open question of just your thoughts. Cross-posting. TikTok is a very resource-heavy platform. Whereas to create and post every single day on Instagram is a lot easier than a post every single day on TikTok. Video is obviously the hardest. It needs the highest amount of resource from a ideation, production point of view, sign off.
I actually don't. I think we've kind of been thinking about it in the wrong way. It's because of the skills that have been crafted. Instagram's been around for much longer. In terms of the formats that it needed, it wasn't too dissimilar to Facebook, so we haven't actually had to evolve that much. But if you think of the content that actually delivers really, really well for brands on TikTok, you might do, dependent on what it is, we've got a fashion brand and we shoot every single month for them, but we can also use stills with, filters over the top of them. And like sometimes the content that will do the best will be like really reactive content, and then you have your higher quality sort of more planned out content just from like a brand maintenance perspective. So I would say like it is probably like 20 to 30% more resources required from it, but it's, it depends how you approach both sides of social. From a cross-posting perspective, I would not be recommending anyone to cross-post more than 40% of their content across Reels and TikTok. I don't think it makes sense.
How would you select that 40%? What would you be looking for?
I think if it doesn't meet your course, you should have separate channel and content strategies for both of those. And if it doesn't match both of them, and at the core of it, I don't mean cross-posting in terms of I'm going to take the entire video file with the Instagram font stylings in it and just put it on TikTok. I mean, take the raws down of it, rework it, change the text styling, change the narrative, like make it, that's cross-posting. That's what I'm referring to. Sorry, I forgot my trail of thought there. What did you ask me?
That's all right. No, I was just obviously talking about the whole cross-posting part of it and how you select thought those.
Selective. It has to outline to some of the strategies. I mean, a lot of the time we've done a lot of learnings this year, and we'll have separate Reels video shoots and separate TikTok shoots, and then we'll identify which ones match the strategy in between, and then we'll adapt them for the platforms. But it's silly because people go to the two platforms for different things. People go to TikTok and they expect to be entertained. If you look at the stats for younger demographics, TikTok time in the evening has replaced their time on TV. So think about from people that are more used to maybe traditional marketing, think of the reasons in which people turn on their TV and watch Netflix or, watch Love Island, for example. They're going to TikTok with that same sentiment in mind. So that's what they're expecting to see. If we look at the amount of active users on TikTok, there's actually more active users on TikTok from like a daily perspective than on Instagram, and they spend more time on that. But if you have TikTok and Instagram, given the stats, you're more likely to spend more time on TikTok on a daily basis than you do on Instagram. But the people that are producing content, so publishing content from their own personal accounts, there's a much higher quantity of that on Instagram. And that's why Instagram is constituted as a social platform and TikTok is constituted as an entertainment platform, because the amount of users... Oh, there we go.
That's right.
The amount of users that are actually publishing content versus the amount of people that are actually active on the platform, there's a complete disparity between the two. And so you've got to think about the motives of why people go there.
Yeah. Now, no brand has unlimited budget.
No.
Some obviously have more budget than others, naturally. Given a restricted budget, how should a brand manager, a marketing manager, social media manager be allocating that between TikTok and Instagram in sort of 2023? And how do you view that as a question, and what would your approach be?
I don't think it makes sense as a question. I think what you need to start looking at is your social strategy as a whole. What are you actually trying to achieve here? Who's your target demographic and what are you trying to get them to do? Then we can look at budgets and say, okay, let's actually take the budgets aside for a second. Let's put that in order of priority. So which channels are going to enable us to do that, and what's the cost associated of effectively running them, and then split your budgets based on that. You would be in a better position to try and run one or two channels the best possible way than trying to split your budget across 5 different channels. It doesn't make sense.
So would you say in like an early stage startup, they should actually maybe look to focus just on one of those platforms?
I think so. I mean, at the minute,
aside from ads, aside from social.
I mean, at the minute, we're sort of suggesting to brands like Instagram and TikTok are your 2 priorities. I think I would probably say to people like start on TikTok first. If you're like a complete startup, fresh brand, you've got no social following. I mean, it depends on your demographic. It depends who you're trying to reach, and it depends what your longevity is. But I'd say probably like 60% of the time, we'd probably suggest TikTok first.
But depending on your demographic,
it is depending on your demographic, but it depends what you're trying to get that demographic to do. It depends on your product. It depends on what's the lifetime value of your customers, what's the consideration period. There's all of these things that I think sometimes, and we get it, a lot of brands come to us and they just go, well, we know that we need to be on social. Okay, well, why do you need to be on social? What value do you see in it? And we can have those conversations and we can educate about the value of social. Recently we've had a client turn on activity again for paid social, and this time last year they also had organic social going, and it's like you can see the real difference in the activity when you pull organic social out of that. It is a really difficult channel to understand the wider impact on it as a business, but Lewis, one of our senior paid media managers, said it to me the other day, like the best way to prove the value is to take it away. And people don't want to do that, and they'll say, well, we don't understand the value of it, and then you say, okay, we'll just don't do it, and they're like, okay, but we need to do it. It's like, well, let's have that conversation as to where the value is.
Yeah, I feel like we could debate this for many hours. We could chat about this for hours. And obviously everyone's got all different forms of opinions. Obviously there are stats that you can back things up with, and we'll make sure we fact check some of it as well.
Mariah, please do.
I know, across the team, obviously everyone's got their different opinions and thoughts on how to approach, but I think as we've summed it up, that's very much sort of our approach internally as a social agency here at the Social Shepherd. But I guess what I want to ask the viewers of is to, down below in the comment section, anywhere like that, please give your thoughts. Where are you putting your budget? Where are you putting your resource? Where are you leaning everything towards as well?
And if we're not precious, if you disagree, that's fine.
Please tell us if you disagree. If you agree, great. But if you don't, please let us know. It's always great to hear how other marketers are attacking it, especially as the social world very much is evolving, always very rapidly. Thank you very much for listening, and look forward to speaking with you soon.